Welcome to Knockhill in Scotland for the British GT Championship. This weekend sees the return of both the GT3 and the GT2 classes, which means we've got a full grid of top sports cars for you, and it will be tight on this narrow, twisty track. The GT3 races at Croft proved to be a success. Julian Westwood arguably put in the best drive, forcing his car through the pack from the back of the grid in very slippery conditions.
Julian Westwood now challenging for second place, trying to get past Andy Britnell.
Decisive, clean, super stuff.
We had a great run. It came to a bit of a halt, sort of like 10 laps in, because the car completely steamed up. I could only see through a little hole in the window, about the size of my fist. But then when the rain actually stopped, it cleared, and I could push again then. So I think we actually just about got to the front, didn't we, before I had to change over.
19-year-old Oliver Bryant put in an impressive solo performance in the Morgan. He led for most of the race until the traffic caught him out.
Oh, look at this, look at this. Stopped us down the inside in traffic. He's taken advantage of Oliver Bryant getting a little bit held up there, and he's through. He's taken the lead.
I saw the Britnell Stockton Porsche. I could see him behind me. I saw his headlights for most of the race, and with the benefit of the ABS that the Porsches have got, he was catching me, and then in the end he sort of snuck through. I sort of felt a bit robbed after leading it for so long, but when I tried to stay with him, I found out that he was the quicker car, and his car was sort of more suited to those conditions, and he was able to brake a lot later than me.
The conditions proved too difficult for the Marcus of Chris Bayton, who struggled to keep the car on the road.
Here's the other, oh, and he's lost it. That's Chris Bayton off in the Marcos.
The spray that comes up is incredible, and you can't see anything. The first one I aquaplaned and came off. The second one again I aquaplaned, but unfortunately hit the tyre barrier. And clearly I'd hit the water and just aquaplaned, and there's absolutely nothing you can do, so we're unlucky. But the car kept going and we managed to finish the race.
The GT2 cars were missing last time as they were off racing at NIARCHOS in France. The Scottish Ferraris dominated that race. Now they are back and on home soil and still leading the competition.
Yeah, Magnicur went really well. I mean, we got there and we hoped we could compete with some of the FIA cars, and they were in the same race, but we struggled a little bit with that. But, you know, the main thing was we were quick in British GT, we had pole position and won the race, so, yeah, really happy.
The Ferraris are looking strong for this weekend in Knockhill, but unfortunately the TVRs have been hampered by engine problems, which has forced them into a major rethink.
The cars ran really well all week until this morning, and we've both had engine problems this morning. The other car had their engine problem first, and they obviously went back to the awning and started getting ready to swap the engines, and we've only got one spare with us this weekend, so we're going to have a look at the two engines that have come out and see if we can get one together for our car for tomorrow.
The first race took place yesterday afternoon, so here's Ben to tell us what happened.
The key to the first race was the weather and which tyres teams chose to start on. Nathan Kinch in the Ferrari and Mike Jordan in the Porsche started on intermediates. Right behind them, Patrick Pearce was also on intermediates in the TVR. The three cars started racing as if it was a 10-lap sprint, not a 1-hour endurance race. And it was a bit like Formula Ford action at the front with Mike Jordan versus Nathan Kinch. Mike Jordan eventually got the move done around the outside into the first corner and took over the lead in the number 77 car. But Neil Cunningham in the Embassy Porsche elected to start on slicks, and by lap 4 he was the fastest man on track. Soon he was up into third place, passing that Ferrari of Nathan Kinch. Weather conditions were gradually improving, and as the slick tyres really built up to temperature, there was no holding back the Embassy Porsche. By lap number 10, Cunningham had taken the lead from Mike Jordan. As the pit stops approached, there were some different strategies employed. Everybody went for slick tyres, but the Ferraris decided to change tyres whilst they were changing drivers. They thereby incurred a drive-through penalty, which they felt would lose them less time than doing the two jobs separately. Sure enough, in came Andrew KIRKALDY fairly soon after the pit stops, but the short pit lane at Knockhill meant that the loss of time, even at the speed limit, was not too great, and KIRKALDY was able to re-emerge in second. The other car of NIARCHOS and MULLEN had to do likewise, but again was able to come back out in third place. The Marcos of Chris Baton led GT3 in the early stages, but mechanical problems put paid to that quite quickly. And that put the Tech 9 Porsche of Dimitri Deverikos ahead, with the Greek driver running as high as third overall at one stage. They kept on pushing, but a little minor off for Dimitri perhaps put him off pushing too hard and allowed him to focus on just getting that GT3 win. Another outstanding performance came from the Nissan 350Z of RJN Motorsport, as Bryce Wilson also chose slick tyres at the start. He moved up to second overall ahead of the Ferraris before the pit stops began, and he even led a lap when the Embassy Porsche made its stop. However, conditions remained difficult, as Steve Wood discovered to his cost in the Eurotech Porsche. He was okay, but the car definitely wasn't. Steering clear of trouble, however, after that great decision to start on slick tyres was the Embassy Porsche of Neil Cunningham and Ben Collins. It took the checker flag to record the team's first ever win at any level, a credit to the organisation and determination of team owner Jonathan France. The Ferraris were beaten for the first time this year, while the two Eurotech cars finished 4th and 5th, and the Sol TVR completed the race in 6th.
Neil did all the work really in the first half of the race. We got a really good choice with our tyres, but I thought it was we all thought it was fairly clear what to do with to go with slicks, and he did amazing to get past so many cars on wet, some more wet grip tyres than he did on his slicks. So to hand that over to me with a big lead, all I had to do was nurse it home. So well done to Neil, and a fantastic result by the Embassy team, who've really earned it.
In GT3, Maserati and Deverikos took their third win in 4 races, beating David Ashburn and Fred Moss, while Miles Hulford and Jamie Smythe finished in third in the Damac Ferrari. But the spoils of victory overall go to Embassy.
After a difficult start to the season, the Embassy team finally took their first win in yesterday's race. They've got it all to do yet again today. In front of them are the Ferraris, but what's going to be crucial here on this race is the weather. It's changing conditions as we speak. Tyre choice will be crucial. Here's Ben.
Thanks, Diana. Well, the track has been drying after early rain, and all of the top cars have gone for slicks. The Ferraris are on the front row, then Warren Hughes starts the TVR in third, and Ben Collins is in 4th place. Michael Caine and Godfrey Jones are on row 3 in identical Porsches, and then Ali McKeever starts the Nissan from 7th, and Piers Maserati is hoping for another win in GT3. He's back on row 4. Cars just heading out of the hairpin as we get ready for the start of the second of 2 races here at Knockhill. It is Andrew KIRKALDY who leads them up onto the grid. Tim Mullen, the 2 Ferraris, and then right behind them is Warren Hughes. Where is Ben Collins? We're waiting for the lights to go out. The Ferraris are going for it, but Ben Collins is still weaving around in front of the rest of the pack. And we've got a huge gap now, Rob, because the top 3 have broken away already.
Absolutely, Ben. I just don't understand that. Ben almost looked as if he wasn't ready for the start. I really don't know what happened there.
Very peculiar indeed, but it's allowed Andrew KIRKALDY, Tim Mullen and Warren Hughes to all get away very quickly. And big gap behind. We can just saw Piers Maserati go through. We're on board Chris Stockton. Oh dear, that's not where he meant to be.
Coming out of there, you can really see the track's ever so slippery. We saw the leaders tiptoeing through there, and coming up to Clark Curve, you can see the dry line developing now in the sunshine. So still very slippy though here at Knockhill.
Oh, Chris Stockton, winner last time out at Croft, but that's going to put him back a little bit for this one. You see the Nissan going through, but Ben Collins running in 4th place with right behind him Michael Caine and then Godfrey Jones. There's Piers Maserati in the number 9 Porsche. Now that behind him, number 21, is Alan Simonson in the Ferrari, and that could be quite a battle between those two, I would think. They all started on slicks, all of these quick guys, and you can see, I think that's pretty much the right decision.
Yeah, this track is actually steaming there on the run down into Duffer, so drying really quickly, so I think slicks was the way to go, Ben, yeah.
Simonson keeping in right behind Maserati. There is Ali McKeever in the number 10 Nissan, which ran so well in that first race here at Knockhill. Now Warren Hughes climbing up the hill, and up ahead Tim Mullen. Tim Mullen spins right in front of him, and he misses him. Thankfully, there was a bit of space, but Mullen, that's a surprise to see the experienced driver like Tim getting into trouble there.
I think a couple of factors influenced that spin. He used a little bit too much curb on the exit of the chicane, and of course the 34 car is starting on the harder compound of the two tyres, Ben, so that won't have helped the situation at all.
No, that's right. Well, behind you can see that Warren Hughes is now coming under some fairly severe pressure from Ben Collins. The blue and red Porsche, we're riding on board it now with Ben Collins at the wheel, and he's trying to get past former touring car driver Warren Hughes in the TVR. He's got a good chance to get down the inside, and that's tricky because he was on the slippery stuff to do that.
Yeah, very, very tricky in the braking area there, but he's really pushing hard, and he's made up time well from his slow start there.
Yeah, he's come up very quickly, but of course the Ferraris are still a long way ahead, aren't they? Over the curbs at the chicane. This is where Mullen got into trouble. Oh, and a big slide from Godfrey Jones, using his rally driving skills to good effect there. Right behind teammate car, that's Michael Caine in the white and blue Porsche just ahead. Out of Clark Corner onto the straight, just behind them there's a good group, and actually coming up through the field there, the purple and red or orange TVR, the second one, that's Johnny Caine. Now he started right at the back, and he's trying to come up through the field. Ooh, alongside Phil Quaife. Quaife runs a bit wide there, and Johnny will be hoping to get through quickly. He is setting some pretty fast lap times, as we look back and see that Warren Hughes coming under more pressure now from Michael Caine. That's for third place. Warren Hughes in the other TVR, but stacking up behind him now, Michael Caine and Godfrey Jones. So it looks as though they might be able to lap a little faster than Hughes is going at the moment.
Yeah, the TVR clearly holding up the two Porsches there, and I think if Caine did get by, then he'd be down the road following Neil Cunningham.
You can see how Godfrey Jones just caught up a little bit over the chicane. There's no lacking in bravery from the number 22 Porsche. Both Godfrey and David, the twin brothers that race that car, are very brave, very committed drivers. But it is Michael Caine that's that little bit closer again to the back of the TVR of Warren Hughes. Not quite trying into the hairpin. He's got to look for a dry surface, of course.
Yeah, the Porsche has terrific traction out of that hairpin, but he's still struggling because it's still wet at the clipping point there, so they're pretty evenly matched as they come up over the pit straight there. But Caine looking to the outside, and oh, they've touched, Ben. They're side by side all the way into Duffus.
Oh, this is more like stock car racing or something. They're leaning on each other in these big, powerful cars around a tight circuit at Knockhill. Warren Hughes and Michael Caine were swapping paintwork. TVR versus Porsche. Warren Hughes is still ahead for the moment.
Superb. Great to see both cars running so close together at the fastest part of the track, and if we just have a quick look at the replay, you can see the two cars were locked together for such a long time on the run down into Duffus. Great action. Hopefully there's lots more to come after the break.
Welcome back to British GT from Knockhill. We're riding on board the Morgan of Keith Arlers. He's trying to get past Pete Morris in the Porsche. Now, the race being led overall at the moment by Andrew KIRKALDY in the Ferrari. And this GT3 class actually proving to be a good fight between Piers Maserati and Alan Simonson. But these two also having their own little dice. It's the front-engine V8-powered Morgan versus the rear-engine Porsche. Quite different handling characteristics around this circuit. Good down change there. And he's got a good little run, though. Not quite enough, I don't think, to get down the inside. And still looking for the dry track. Oh, no, he's lost it. Oh, I think he must have just clipped some water on the outside. And just as it looked as though Keith Arlers was going to get past Pete Morris, well, he's lost a great deal of time as a result of that spin. Look at the steam coming off the road. The sun is out, the track's drying off, and slick tyres were certainly the right way to go. And Andrew KIRKALDY is flying out in the lead of this race.
Yeah, the main part of the racetrack now, Ben, is really dry. You can see the lighter coloured tarmac there, so the slicks will be in a little world of their own now. The cars on intermediates will really start to struggle shortly.
Ben Collins in second place, Warren Hughes in third. Remember, Tim Mullen had a spin in the early part of the race. He is fighting his way back up the order in the second of the Ferraris. He's going quickly at the moment, but he's got some work to do. There is Embassy Racing, winners of race one here at Knockhill. We're on board with their driver, Ben Collins, and he's trying to close that gap up to the Ferrari, running at about the same pace, but the trouble is the gap is already there, and he's not able to actually do much about closing that gap. It's staying constant. Third place, Warren Hughes. Fourth place, still Michael Caine. And then right behind him, it's Godfrey Jones in the number 22 Porsche. Up out of the hairpin, and Hughes again is going to have to watch his mirrors here.
Yes, Ben, as the track dries, the Porsche will really put the power down well coming out of the hairpin and will probably hold the upper hand on the TVR as they come up the start-finish straight. But looking at the Nissan here, just putting a lap on the Quaife Porsche there.
Yeah, that's right. Ali McKeever going pretty well. Local circuit for Ali, so he's hoping for a good performance. We're on board with Chris Stockton, who had a wide moment at the start of this race, but he's got down the inside of Phil Quaife here on the slippery stuff on the apex that you were mentioning. Oh, and yes, he got into a bit of a slide, but I think he still managed to take the place there and moves ahead of Phil Quaife, who's got a bit of damage to the front of his car. And that dice, I don't think, is fully resolved yet. That one's going to continue a little longer, but for the moment, Chris Stockton is through. And there on the pit wall is his teammate, Andy Britnell, keeping a close eye on proceedings. They had the win at Croft, and I'm sure he'd love to try and back that up here. Now, the two Porsches have dropped away a little bit from the TVR on this last lap, and in fact Michael Caine is coming under a bit of pressure from his own teammate Godfrey Jones. We're on board with Godfrey down into Duffers Dip, one of the best sections of this Knockhill track, and look how they just pop over the curb there.
Yeah, that was a terrific shot, wasn't it? Just seeing the TVR really aggressive over the curbs, and fantastic to come to a circuit where there's this exciting change in gradient.
And also, just watch ahead of Keith Arles. That battle ahead of him is for the lead in the GT3 class. Arles, of course, dropped back. Oh, and he's dropping back further. Another mistake from Keith. Oh, he'll be kicking himself. And he's got back on somehow, and he's still going, but of course, almost being clipped by some of those quick cars coming through. But he does survive for the moment. And in the pits there, Chris NIARCHOS in fairly heated discussion with Stuart Roden, team boss.
Yeah, clearly discussing strategy there of some description. With Tim having a spin early on, that may have changed their potential plan for when they were going to make their pit stop. So, like you say, Ben, heated discussion in the Scuderia cockpit.
Now, on board with Warren Hughes. Working that TVR hard, still ahead of Michael Caine. And as the track is that little bit dry, you can see how much more aggressively they can push and how much more they can use those curves.
Yeah, Knockhill is a track that really rewards grabbing the car by the scruff of the neck and pushing really hard. And Warren, an exceptionally talented driver in a quick car as well in that TVR, so great to watch, Ben.
Chris Stockton dicing with the Nissan. Of course, the Nissan running in the GT2 category, the top class, but there with Ali McKeever at the wheel, not quite as experienced as his teammate Bryce Wilson. And there they are about to be lapped by our race leader, Andrew KIRKALDY. KIRKALDY trying to find space. That's where this track is difficult again, because it's so narrow. It's so easy to get caught out when you catch up to traffic. Just looking slightly, there's that battle between the TVR and the Porsches, and actually there's a car in between them now. This has allowed Warren Hughes to get away a little bit.
Yeah, and the quicker GT2 cars have got to be so careful they don't get onto that still slightly damp tarmac just off the racing line. It's so difficult with Knockhill being quite narrow.
On board with Godfrey Jones, gets the power down well there, but coming up to the hairpin once more, it is the race leader, Andrew KIRKALDY. Cars all over the place in front of him, and he's just got to pick his way through these as sensibly as possible. He moves to the outside. They're all being pretty well behaved, getting out of his way. And Andrew KIRKALDY using his extensive knowledge of this Knockhill circuit, although it's been a few years since he's raced here, in fact. I think he's pretty happy to be back. His career started here in racing such as Formula Ford, but he actually hasn't been here for a few seasons. But the fact that he comes from St Andrews, and this is Scotland's only real regular racetrack, is problems for Chris Stockton. And that actually happened pretty much as KIRKALDY was going past, didn't it?
Yeah, just as you said before, Ben. The track is so narrow and it's so hazardous lapping these slower GT3 cars, and that happened right in front of the race leader, and you can see Stockton's really struggling for traction to get his car going there on the wet grass.
Oh dear, I hope that they can get that car to rejoin once again, but KIRKALDY escaping from what could have been a bit of a disastrous situation. That wet grass, just look, there's just absolutely no grip whatsoever. Further back, meanwhile, Johnny Caine still on the move. Look, car number 42, the other TVR, has come from the back of the grid, remember, and is gradually working his way up towards the top order. He's lapping very quickly, and it's allowing that battle behind him is for the GT3 lead between Piers Maserati and Alan Simonson, and those two were virtually side by side coming out of the hairpin. And it's great to see how evenly matched the Porsche and the Ferrari are in this GT3 class.
Yes, Ben, I really thought that Simonsen might have capitalised there. After Kane got past Piers, I thought he might have tried to follow him through, but Piers just caught sight and closed the door in time. But the short nature of the circuit here in Knockhill means the performance difference is really not that great between the GT2 and the GT3 machines.
Stockton still trying to get back onto the circuit in the background there, you can see that, but this is a good dice between these two, Maserati and Simonsen. Finally, the marshals are able to get out there. They've got to wait for a bit of clear space, and into the pits, the Damax Ferrari, Marco Attard just to the left of the picture there, having a look to see what's going on. Nick Adams in the car at the moment. They're trying to change the tyres, but they've obviously got a problem with that wheel nut. Still, in second place, it's Ben Collins, and there is Stockton back on, by the way, so they have managed to get that car safely back on. Oh, we're on board with Warren Hughes, and it's all getting terribly tight out there.
As he comes through to lap another couple of the slower cars, you can see he was right off, and they're three abreast going into Clark Curve. Knockhill just isn't wide enough for that to happen.
Oh, great stuff, and everybody's behaving themselves brilliantly well so far, because it is not easy to let a faster car come through, even if you're trying to get out of his way. And Jamie Smythe in that Ferrari, leaving it nice and wide on the way into the hairpin, and so Hughes is able to get through and head on up the hill once again.
Ben, sorry to interrupt, but you can see a little bit of smoke there coming from the transmission tunnel of the TVR. Whether that's engine or gearbox, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see what happens there. And there it is again, look.
Yeah, I see what you mean, and that's got to be a little bit of a worry for Hughes. There again, yeah, a little puff of smoke, and that can't be good news for him, but it doesn't slow him down, and he's still flat out. Still, look at that big bit of a slide out of the chicane there. Really on it, and you don't get any rest as a driver around this circuit, do you? Especially in these big, powerful cars.
No, very short gear ratio, so you're constantly up and down the gearbox, working really hard at the wheel.
And all the bumps as well you've got to deal with. Just look at the bumps they have to deal with. The car actually leaving the ground. Mike Jordan was telling me the rear wheels of the Porsche actually coming off the ground on the straights, let alone on some of the corners here at Knockhill. But it's all part of getting the car set up to work. Godfrey Jones making his way through the traffic as well. And up the hill, Ian Flux in the white Ferrari. He's been going well, actually, and there's good battle between him and Jamie Smythe in a similar car. So those two battling together, but also trying to let the two leaders through at the same time. Now, on board with Ben Collins. Let's just see, perhaps we can get an idea how bumpy it is.
Yeah, coming down the straight there before the hairpin, you can see the bumps and the car crashing around hard on the brakes now. Coming down from 140 miles an hour down to 25 miles an hour for the hairpin, then back on the power again as you climb quite steeply up this hill past the pit lane on the left-hand side.
So the winners from yesterday, Collins and Cunningham, grabs another gear change. Now he's coming up to that quick right-hander, and it's a very quick down change, and chuck it in, isn't it?
Yeah, Duffus is a really interesting corner, very aggressive approach. Just throw the car at the first part and then slide through the second element where Michael Caine's coming through now.
Michael Caine really enjoying his time with Eurotech. He's only joined the team this year, still learning the Porsche to a certain extent. He never really competed in a Porsche until the end of last year, but getting a black and white warning flag he was there, and that's used if you're cutting the corners too much.
Yeah, just excessive use of curbing normally for the black and white flag at Knockhill.
In the TVR, watch for the smoke from the dashboard. Can we see it again? Up out of the hairpin. Well, nothing running right there. Something sounds wrong.
Yeah, I think I've been in a few TVR straight sixes when they're not running right, and that definitely doesn't sound good.
Oh, what a disappointing time this team's having this weekend. Yeah, smoke again coming from the front, and that's a great shame because that was a good drive from Warren Hughes.
Smoke everywhere, and it's just gone up to about 3 or 4 cylinders.
That's it then for Warren Hughes. No way I'd think that they're going to be able to get that car repaired. They'll have a quick look, but they've had so many engine dramas already this weekend. Pretty sure that's it. Oh dear, that's not what Andrew KIRKALDY wants to see in front of him. A Porsche dancing around on the brakes, on the limit. It is Julian Westwood though, so at least he can probably have a reasonable amount of confidence that Westwood was going to hold it, and he has got past him.
Yes, we've seen some awesome performances from Westwood already this season, and that's Patrick Pearce having a look at the smoky TVR in the LNT pit box.
Yeah, Patrick, who was such a star at the opening meeting at Donington. Now, what's going on here? Westwood had got into second in GT3, but he's just lost it again to Alan Simonsen by bouncing over the curb a bit too much. And so Julian Westwood, who's gradually caught Alan Simonsen over the last few laps, throwing away some of that good work as he bounced over the curbs. But look at Tim Mullen. Tim Mullen now running in 5th, right behind Godfrey Jones.
Warren, what happened to end that race?
Yeah, it's a shame. It looks like we've had a head gasket go on the engine, so it just dropped onto 4 cylinders, I think. And there was a lot of smoke in the car for quite a while, but the water temperature was fine. But obviously something else going on with the head gasket. And but yeah, no, I mean, the car was quite tricky early on in the slippy conditions, but as it started to dry out, the pace came back, and pretty good. But we're closing on the embassy car, so I think a good result was on.
Disappointing end.
Yeah.
On board with Ben Collins, still running in 2nd place. He's about 10 seconds behind race leader Andrew KIRKALDY in the Ferrari. But can Embassy pull something out of the bag here? They really, I think, need the Ferrari to have a slight problem, perhaps. But Neil Cunningham's getting ready to take over that car, and the pressure will be on Nathan Kinch, who'll take over the Ferrari, of course, from Andrew KIRKALDY. He'll have to perform to stay ahead of the Embassy machine. Michael Caine running in 3rd. Tim Mullen now in 4th. He's ahead of Godfrey Jones. Godfrey Jones back in 5th, and Johnny Caine in the 2nd TVR. He started at the back, and he's now up to 6th. There is the GT3 leader. It's Piers Maserati. Again, Alan Simonson's not too far behind him. Further back down the order, it's Keith Arners in the Morgan. He's had a rather exciting time of it so far. He heads up to Clark Curve. He just allows Tim Mullen through. Mullen fighting back, but there's still a long way to go.
Join Motors.
We're approaching half distance in the GT race at Knockhill, and there's a great race going on in the GT3 class between Piers Maserati in the black and silver Porsche and the Ferrari of Alan Simonson. The race being led overall by the GT2 Ferrari of Andrew KIRKALDY. He's about 10-11 seconds ahead of Ben Collins in the Porsche, but it's these two who are very close together that we're keeping an eye on. Back on board the Morgan of Keith Arners, and he's deciding to come in. We're gone into the pit stop zone now. After 23 minutes, you're allowed to come into the pits and change drivers, and that's exactly what Keith's doing. And here's a battle for the lead, perhaps change for the lead in GT3 as Alan Simonson gets past Piers Maserati.
Textbook Knockhill overtaking manoeuvre there, Ben. Just sneak past on the way down in the braking area to the hairpin and drive away up the straight. And Chris NIARCHOS there ready to take over the Ferrari from Tim Mullen as well.
Yes, Tim's done a great job of fighting back after that spin he suffered in the early stages, and he's now running in 4th position, chasing after Michael Caine, who's holding on to 3rd place. Simonson, again, looking hard and aggressive, but of course, Piers Maserati leads the points in GT3, bouncing over the curbs. He's also very aware that the second driver, when Alan Simonson hands over, will not be as quick, so perhaps he doesn't need to stay in front of him at this stage in the race. Michael Caine coming through there, chased by Tim Mullen, and this is the battle for 3rd place now. Porsche versus Ferrari, and Mullen all the way back up to 3rd after that earlier spin. Well, not quite 3rd yet, but he could be in 3rd very soon as we ride on board with Godfrey Jones. He's a little bit behind them. Is Mullen going to go for it? Yes, he is. Trying to take 3rd place. He's done it on the brakes, into the hairpin, in much the same manoeuvre as we saw a moment ago from Alan Simonson.
That's where the 360 really has an advantage over the Porsche and the TVR in the braking areas. The 360 literally stops on a sixpence. It's a fantastic car on the brakes.
Chris Stockton in car number 23. We saw him have some dramas early on. We're back on board with Godfrey Jones here. He's running in 5th position. He's got one of the GT3 class cars just ahead, so he's got to pick his way through here as cleanly as possible. He'll be handing over to brother David in the next lap or two, I would think. You can see that some areas where he's just got that bit more power, bit more traction, lesser powered car that he's overtaking, of course, in the GT3 class, and that makes it a fairly easy task.
Got very close there to the back of the Ferrari, didn't he, coming out of the chicane. Oh.
Now, there is Tim Mullen. I wonder how long before he hands over to Chris NIARCHOS. Could it be this lap that we'll be seeing the car in? No, he's staying out for a little bit longer. He wants as much time as possible. He is that bit faster than NIARCHOS, of course. So I suppose they're going to leave it to the last minute before they make their pit stop.
Yeah, the performance difference, though, between Tim and Chris has really come down over the last few races. Chris has been putting in some awesome lap times this weekend in particular.
Canadian-born businessman who's come into GT racing over the last year or two and absolutely loves his racing. Very fired up, learning all the time. We're on board with a more experienced pilot here in the shape of Ben Collins. He's raced in the States, he's raced in Indy Lights, he's raced in sports cars all over the world. And what's happening up here ahead of him? Well, he's got some GT3 cars just up ahead. You saw Piers Maserati and Alan Simonson still pretty close together. And here comes Ben Collins then. It's a very good team, these two, Ben Collins and Neil Cunningham. There's not too much difference in pace between them. So it's a good opportunity for him to come in and hand the car over to the experienced Kiwi.
I spoke to Neil at the start of the year and he said he really enjoyed driving with Ben because he's a driver so close that they push each other along in performance terms. So like you say, Ben, very good combination there at the Embassy squad.
Well, they had the win in the first race here at Knockhill. They're running in a strong second place, but there's a big gap between themselves and Andrew KIRKALDY, who hasn't yet been in. He'll hand over to Nathan Kinch, of course. Belts go on. Neil Cunningham getting strapped in. Oh. Bit of a delay, maybe. But they have to sit in the pits for 45 seconds.
Go to the front brake.
Bit of advice there from Collins.
Yeah, just explain to Neil he's got to go forwards with the brake bias. As the fuel load lightens in the Porsche, the car changes in characteristics quite a lot, so he's just putting more brakes on the front to make the back end of the car less lively.
And out he comes then, back on circuit, so he's had his 45-second stop. That is timed. They're not allowed to come out in under 45 seconds. And this is always the tricky part for the new driver, getting used to the conditions, getting used to a car that's already done half a race.
Fortunately for Neil, though, the circuit's almost dry. There's only a little couple of patches of standing water now, so he hasn't got too much to deal with. If he's come out 20 minutes ago, oh, it's been a lottery for him.
Now he's beginning to get the feel of the car. They didn't change tyres, you noticed, so he's still on the same slick tyres that Ben Collins started the race on, but of course it was damp early, so not too much wear. Coming through there, Tim Mullen. That's not a race for position because Tim, as we know, already in third place in the overall standings. There is our race leader, though, looking smooth, controlled, committed. He's a joy to watch, is Andrew KIRKALDY.
The car looks immaculate as well, Ben. If you look at some of the cars further down the field, they look like they've been doing some off-roading, but his car still looks lovely.
Alan Simonson in from the GT3 class lead. Oh, and he's handing over to Hector Lester as we see leaping through the chicane, the Damax Ferrari. Everyone's getting a bit carried away over those curbs, but Tim Mullen, a slightly neater line through there than some of the GT3 cars, and I'm sure we'll be seeing him in any moment now. In the pits, there's Andy Britnell ready to take over from Chris Stockton. Now remember, these two won the last race at Croft when Chris Stockton was able to fight his way past Oliver Bryant in those difficult conditions. And Andy Britnell now will be taking that car over. There's Neil Cunningham, still running very quickly, having taken over the Embassy Porsche. And all of the pit stops coming thick and fast now. You just saw Michael Caine coming into the pits. He'll be handing over to Mike Jordan. Tim Mullen, though, leaving it till the last moment before he hands over to Chris NIARCHOS. And again, very committed, very determined, using those curves extensively. Oh, and a bit of a bounce through the chicane there for the 36 car.
Yeah, that's Stephen Warburton, aggressive driver, and he's pushing very hard to make up time that he may have lost in the first part of the race.
Now then, Tim Mullen, surely we're going to see him coming in this time, are we? Heading up towards the pit lane, and Chris NIARCHOS is there, ready and waiting to take over the Écurie Ecos Ferrari. Really make sure he gets down to the speed limit before he comes into pit lane. And remember, it's a 45-second stop in the pits. Looking at the tyres, I'm not sure if they're going to change them. They're having a good look at them, and they'll maybe decide to change them. In fact, there's been a clarification of the rules. They're not allowed to change them while they're doing the driver change. They did do that yesterday. They did get a penalty, but a clarification of the rules means they're not going to do that today, and they may not bother anyway. You saw Piers Maserati get out of the Tech 9 car, Dimitri Deverikos taking that over, and we're on board with Andrew KIRKALDY. He's not coming in just yet.
No, he's tied up in traffic for this lap. You can see Oliver Bryant ahead of him, and then he's coming up to what looks like the Quaid Porsche there as well.
Bit of muck on the windscreen, but not too bad in terms of visibility. Again, he's just having to pick his way through, but now that the track is drier, more or less across its entire width, it is easier to pick your way through. There's Chris NIARCHOS. They've had their 45 seconds in the pits, and Dimitri Deverikos waiting for the signal from Phil Hindley. There it is, and oh, no, they've got a problem. Something's happened. What's the delay?
I think they've just made a change to the front dampers of the car there.
Right, well, they didn't work on the car until the 45 seconds was over. That was it. Once the 45 seconds was out, then he made the adjustment, and then they sent him on his way.
Yeah, probably lost about 10 seconds there. I didn't have the watch on it, but it looked about 10 seconds.
Well, DeVericos still hoping to get the GT3 class win. Meanwhile, Diana's in the pits with Tim Mullen.
Tim, what happened at the start of the race?
It's my fault, really. It's just, obviously, everybody was starting on cold slicks. And I think, you know, our cars, whenever the track's low grip, our cars are quite difficult to drive. But once the grip comes in, they're really, really quick. So initially, in the first couple of laps, it was just, I couldn't keep the thing in a straight line, and just on the exit of the chicane, I went wide onto the curb, and it went sideways, and I spun to the inside onto the grass. So it's a shame, really. But, it was my mistake on the exit of the chicane, unfortunately. So, but Chris is driving really, really well here this weekend, and hopefully he can keep us up there.
Out on track, Neil Cunningham, now running in third place, effectively. Tim Mullen had fought his way into second, with the pit stops being made. Some work to be done, and into the pits comes our race leader, Andrew KIRKALDY. Now then, Nathan Kinch will be taking over this car. He's handing over a very useful lead to his fellow Scot, but it's Nathan who will have the work in the second part of the race. There is Neil Cunningham then, running in third place, but Chris NIARCHOS in the other Ferrari then, now in second place, having taken over from Tim Mullen. Mike Jordan is running in fourth, David Jones fifth. Welcome back to Knockhill. We're into the latter part of the race now, with Neil Cunningham there in the number 55 Porsche running in third place, but there, just about to come out, race leader Nathan Kinch. He's taken over from his teammate Andrew KIRKALDY, and it's now the 22-year-old who's got the responsibility of holding on to the lead and taking another victory for the team. Here's Neil Cunningham, though, trying to pick his way through the traffic. This is just to put another lap on one of the GT3 cars. And I think he'll do that on the brakes into the hairpin. Yeah, he does so. Steve Warburton doing a good job of keeping out the way, but look, right behind is Mike Jordan, and this is a battle for third place, and Jordan's got a great chance. He's dived to the inside almost before Neil Cunningham could cover the inside position, and Mike Jordan now, will he be braver on the brakes? Yeah, he's got the line. Mike Jordan's in third.
Great, really good stuff there from Mike Jordan, just capitalising on Neil getting stuck in traffic a little bit and pounced. Really, really clean, quick overtaking manoeuvre there.
So it's Ferrari, Porsche, and in sixth place is the leading car in the GT3 class. It's another Porsche, it's Dimitri DeVericos, so he's going extremely well in sixth place overall. But Neil Cunningham, just, as you say, caught out a little bit in traffic. I wonder if he's going to have a chance to get back at him. This is the high-speed section before they get on the brakes. You can see how much the cars bounce around, but he's not close enough to have another go into the hairpin. I think he's going to be forced to follow Mike for the moment. Mike's looking a little bit faster in the John Guest car, and he's just pulling away very slightly.
Yeah, just looks a little bit more drivable. And is that Ali McKeever in the pit lane?
Yeah, Ali Chat. Oh, and off has gone Martin Rich. Martin Rich, who's taken over the number 30 car from Julian Westwood, sliding across the grass. Thankfully, he's not in the tyre barrier. But again, it's going to be tough to get that from that position onto the circuit again. It's close to where we saw Chris Stockton stuck earlier. There's DeVericos coming through. Now, a bit ahead of him, on the same lap as him, in second place in class, number 21, Hector Lester. And then another lap down is Miles Hulford, but he's battling with that yellow and green Porsche, David Ashburn. So those two having a great dice for third in class. Ashburn actually might have a chance to take third in class up the hill there. He may have the inside. Oh, no, he had to back out of it, because Lester suddenly slowing. He's got problems. So, in fact, Miles Hulford's effectively unlapped himself from Hector Lester. DeVericos nearly a lap ahead of all of them. And there is our overall race leader, Nathan Kinch, settling in well. Let's just watch him and make sure that he's up to speed and protecting that lead that KIRKALDY earned him earlier on.
Yes, Ben, at this stage in the race, Nathan will be driving a very defensive race, just trying to not make any mistakes, keep everything neat and tidy and keep it on the black bit and off the green bit.
Well, he's used to winning races. KIRKALDY and Kinch took 6 race victories in the 2004 season. Didn't quite win the championship, but they're certainly heading that way at the moment. Dominating proceedings, although they were beaten here at Knockhill in those changeable conditions. Now that the conditions are pretty much consistent, KIRKALDY and Kinch proving to be a very formidable team. Up the hill he comes then. Still got to plan his attack a little bit with those GT3 cars up ahead. Can't afford to make a mistake. But so far, so good for the youngster. And we can just see those other cars ahead of him trying to have their own little race. You can see DeVericos in kind of a 9 behind Hector Lester. Now, this is actually to put a lap on the car that he was battling with in the early stages, or should I say his teammate was, because, of course, Piers Maserati was in the black and silver car earlier, and Simonson was in the number 21 car. Now it's Hector Lester, and it's fairly easy for DeVericos, I think, to put the lap on, and Nathan Kinch will try and do likewise in just a moment.
Yeah, lots of lapping and unlapping going on now around Knockhill. It's only 1.2 miles in length, so we get a lot of complicated lap score sheets at this time of the race, Ben.
And I think DeVericos is going to leave the door open. Yes, he does, for race leader Nathan Kinch to come through. You can see that the Ferrari is no quicker around the hairpin than the GT3 Porsche, but once they get the power down, then there is a bit of a difference.
I think the biggest difference we saw there, Ben, was the performance between the Tech 9 Porsche and the 21 Ferrari. The Ferrari really dropped back as they accelerated out of the hairpin, so I think he's got a handful of problems now.
Well, maybe we can find out more, because Diana is with Alan.
Alan, is there a bit of a problem with the car?
There is. There's the same problem that there's been since we started racing at Donington when we lost the wind. The car starts cutting out once it gets warm. The last 3 laps were in my stint, it was the same thing. The car was cutting out, and we just simply can't figure out what it is, and it's going to lose us the win this time again, unfortunately.
So that's a little frustrating for all you guys here.
It's very frustrating, you know, because this is race number 5, really, and we've changed everything, and we can't sort out what the problem is. And this is the 3rd race. We have to drop out from the lead-in, so you know, but I don't know what to do. But yeah, you're right. It's very frustrating.
Well, they're still trying to get Martin Rich's car moved. Looking rather smoky, I'm afraid, around the engine. But Martin out of the car, and it doesn't look as though... well, intimate relationships with the marshals at Knockhill, always a good move. But up the hill, it's still Chris NIARCHOS who's holding on to 2nd place overall, and the Ferraris are dominating here. There is Mike Jordan. He's running in a strong 3rd place, not that far behind Chris NIARCHOS, and he is actually catching up. Now, this could be interesting, Rob, in the closing stages. What do you reckon, Mike's chances?
Well, we saw Mike side past Neil Cunningham a few laps ago, but Chris NIARCHOS is really flying. The Mullen-NIARCHOS combination working well this weekend.
Yes, it is. And you said that NIARCHOS has got closer in terms of lap time to Tim Mullen in recent races, and so far he's fending off Mike Jordan's advances. We're back on board here with Neil Cunningham. Remember, he's in 4th position overall. Got some good dices going on up ahead of him. Still not the next car ahead of him there. That's another lap down, but just ahead of him is that battle for 3rd in GT3. Miles Halford, the youngster, he's only 17 years old, driving the Ferrari with David Ashburn getting alongside him as we watch him go up the hill. And David Ashburn, I think, has just managed to move ahead there. Got a great run out of the hairpin.
Yeah, and the Porsche 911 using its traction advantage there, and Neil being very cautious, as he should be at this stage in the race now.
Yeah, the task now is just to bring it home in one piece. So now he follows Miles Halford. They're in different classes, though, these two. The number 16 Ferrari and the number 55 Porsche. So I think that Miles will let him go fairly quickly. But still a good effort from Halford and from Jamie Smythe, his teammate in the earlier part of the race, former Formula Ford champion, running well in the Ferrari and British GT this year. But as you say, Neil is definitely being careful. He's not going for every move. Oh, and going very slowly there was Hector Lester, and he's been passed by these 2 cars ahead of us in Cunningham. That's Miles Halford and David Ashburn as they come round the hairpin.
They're engrossed in their own little battle as Cunningham comes around, and all this contact between the 2 cars as they come up the straight there.
Oh, Miles Halford getting a bit of a tap from Neil Cunningham. Cunningham's not pleased. He's trying to make his way through, and I think he felt as though he was a bit hindered coming around the hairpin. And Ashburn now up into what is, I think, 2nd in that class, in the GT3 class it is. Halford, because Hector Lester has dropped back, is still in 3rd. His teammate there is actually a lap down on him in the number 15 black Ferrari. The other Damax car is not running quite as well in this race, had a problem earlier on, so they're a bit further down the order. But everyone keeping an eye on what's going to occur in these last few laps. Neil Cunningham's just trying to stay out of trouble, and even that's not proving to be easy.
No, the dice has rolled very unfortunately for Neil. He's been caught up in a lot of GT3 battles, and that's really not helped him as he's been trying to put a lap on those slower cars.
Marco Attard in the black Ferrari. He is a lap down on his teammate Miles Halford, but he has just gone ahead. Still some work to do there for him, but Cunningham in a little bit more of clean air. There is David Ashburn, new team to the championship this year, and David running regularly in the Porsche Carrera Cup as well as in British GT, so he's a busy man, is he, this year. And this brand new team gradually getting quicker and quicker with the car. Bit of a slide there from Halford as we turn back our attention to Chris NIARCHOS, still in second place. There's Mike Jordan, and now Jordan really has not been able to close up that gap as much as we might have expected. It's just a mark of how quickly Chris NIARCHOS is able to push in the Ferrari, and despite Mike's experience and his ability, he's not able to really get that much closer. There's Cunningham still in fourth place. A little bit relieved to see a little bit more clear air in front of him, although he's got the GT3 class leader, Dimitri Deverikos, as his next target.
Interesting to see all the front-running GT2 cars now, all with their headlights on full beam, just to give the GT3 cars as much notice as they can that they're coming.
Up through the chicane he comes. Deverikos still not quite as quick in the GT3 class car that's a little closer to its road-going brother. And Cunningham in the more modified machine is able to slip through there. Quick thank you. Deverikos has been very impressive this year. He's got experience in single-seaters and in sports cars. He contested 4 races in the Italian GT Championship in a Porsche last year, and using that to good effect in 2005. But Neil Cunningham still working quite hard at the wheel. Car ahead of him indicating very clearly that he's moving out of the way. And Steve Warburton, that is, doing a good job. He's actually running 4th in the GT3 class. As David Ashburn's team are hopeful that they're going to get a decent finish out of this one. A second place by the looks of things, on board with Nathan Kinch. And Nathan Kinch now coming into the closing stages. He's got to complete this lap, and he'll be going on to his final lap of this Knockhill circuit. And the 22-year-old from Aberdeen, who's been racing sports cars for a good few years now, started racing in Ferraris, in fact, back in 2001 when he contested the Pirelli Maranello Challenge, and really very much a Ferrari expert, I suppose you would say. It looks as though he's going to take victory here. Chris NIARCHOS still running in second place, and Mike Jordan in third. Do you think anyone could stop these two, though, KIRKALDY and Kinch, for the remainder of this year, Rob?
The words steamroller and championship immediately spring to mind. They're looking very, very strong already. We'll just have to wait and see how the championship transpires when they start to go to tracks that maybe don't suit the Ferrari quite so much.
Oh, he's still getting a scare, and look, fist out of the window there to David Ashburn. My goodness, that almost went wrong on the last lap. That is sports car racing. You can never relax, especially on a tight circuit, but I don't think they would have seen that. So they're easy, they're relaxed. They're expecting their man to come round. They don't know how close he was to not coming around, but he has made it. It is going to be another victory for KIRKALDY and Nathan Kinch. They've won every race bar one in this year's championship, and that means that they are dominating the series so far. Second place will be their teammate car. It's Chris NIARCHOS at the wheel, and he's driven extremely well here today to fend off Mike Jordan, who pushed hard in the closing stages. Behind the Ferraris, Mike Jordan finished in third, ahead of the Embassy Porsche and the Jones brothers, who took 5th place. And in GT3, another win for Maserati and Deverikos, ahead of Ashburn and Moss and Halford and Smythe.
Nathan, how was that session for you?
Yeah, it was good fun, great fun. Andrew gave me a good lead to start with, and it was just a case of going out there and keeping the position. It's one of the tougher tracks because there's not many places you can actually pass the cup cars. So to build a gap, it's hard because it fluctuates up and down. But the aim was for a win today, and we got it, so it's good for the championship.
And I've never raced here before, so to come up here with the guys with their home circuit, I certainly didn't want to let the team down. And I hope everybody's done each other proud. I mean, everybody's just, you know, completely over the moon about it, so it's fantastic.
Ferraris, we knew we were going to be good round here. They're you know, it's their home track, and they're doing a fantastic job. And Chris drove really well then. I did think after the pit stop, if I could get within a second and a half of him, he might just get a bit rattled and make a mistake, and he didn't make any mistakes at all.
Dimitri, many congratulations. That was another strong drive today.
Yes, it was a very nice drive today, but it was a little lucky because Ferrari had a technical problem and retired, and you finished in the first position. For me, it was a great achievement.
With victory, Kinch and KIRKALDY are 10 points ahead of MULLEN and NIARCHOS. Jordan and Kane are 5th on 21 points, and in GT3, Maserati and NIARCHOS have a very comfortable advantage over Marco Attard and Nick Adams.
Well, another strong weekend here for the Ferraris. The Scudera team taking a 1-2 here at Knockhill. They're delighted. They'll be back trying to do it all again at Thruxton in Hampshire. Join us for that. Bye-bye.